What's up, everyone?
It's the Chungler, and welcome back to my FE8 Efficiency playthrough. This video showcases chapters 17 and 18. Chapter 17 is a pretty quick kill boss map. In this playthrough, our clear is a little bit suboptimal in a few different ways. First, a reliable one-turn clear of this chapter actually does work. We would need to give Seth the leftover energy ring in our convoy. The reason I say leftover is because Sally reached 20 magic without needing it, and he only used one energy ring. So we could give that to Seth, which would allow him to 4-hit KO Leon with a spear. And Seth's hit rates on the boss would be pretty good. Second, we would actually need 11 spear uses instead of, I believe I have 7 here, at the start of the map so that it doesn't break during the enemy phase before Leon attacks. So we'd have to use the spear a little bit less in chapter 15. Third, and probably the most disappointing thing about a one turn, is that Myrrh gets so much less EXP. As you can see, we warped Myrrh to the top left to start killing enemies here, but that wouldn't be possible in a one turn because we would need both Mulder and Sally's warp to make sure that Seth doesn't have really any chance of death on enemy phase. We do technically have a chance at one-turning this map in our current setup, but it would require Seth critting Leon with a spear instead of a clean 4-hit KO. That's usually what LTCs do, but I wanted to showcase the 2-turn clear of this map without the spear crit. Even without considering the 1-turn though, this is a little bit suboptimal because we have Tana carrying Seth instead of Vanessa. We had to give Seth the body ring to double Orson with a Horse Slayer, which actually isn't necessary. Since this run, Orisa and other FE8 players have shown off a more reliable Lance Reaver kill on Orson, which means Seth doesn't need the body ring and then can be just carried by Vanessa. So even if you couldn't one-turn the map by just warping Seth, Vanessa faces less death chance in a 2-turn than Tana does here. It's still really low because Tana would need to get hit by 2 out of the 3 druids near Leon, which is pretty unlikely because there's 2 Luna druids and they have like 20 displayed hit, which is really bad. But still, Vanessa with her higher HP and better avoid would be a little bit better at carrying Seth and ensuring that nobody ends up dying. So okay, let's see what we ended up doing actually. Myrrh is doing that enemy phase where she's getting a good amount of EXP. She doesn't have any chance of death here, and that's because our Myrrh reached level 3, which if you remember the chapter 16 clear, she ended up like critting a few enemies, so I thought that the level 3 Myrrh dream wasn't really going to happen, but I did reroute some EXP in chapter 16 with that new Lance Reaver Seth strat, and I ended up getting her to basically the same level, so didn't really have any trouble. I mean, depending on her defense procs, you might not be able to put her in the exact same position, but she should be pretty good regardless. So now on turn 2, since Seth did not crit the boss, Myrrh is going to get a lot more EXP, and she is going to fly down and kill the other promoted paladin as well as the Valkyrie that came down. If the Phantom died to the Paladin on turn 1 enemy phase, the Valkyrie would be a little bit farther up, but that'd still be okay. Myrrh doesn't always have enough strength to one-shot the Valkyrie, but if that's the case, we'll just kill another enemy and basically be fine. Yeah, again, like a little bit less EXP for Myrrh, but at this point she's still getting so much that I actually went way over on Myrrh's EXP, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Again, it's really only the 1-turn clear of this chapter that really fucks Myrrh. Any like 2-turn variation is still going to get her quite a bit because of all the 1-range enemies she can fight and kill on turn 2. And then all of our other units are just going to run away because at this point Myrrh's defense is getting so high that enemies will prefer to attack units like Garrick and Vanessa instead of Myrrh, which is kind of funny. So in the span of like 2 chapters, Myrrh has gone from like dies to 2 enemies to unfucking targetable, which is pretty funny. I love Myrrh as a unit. She's just so fun. And yeah, so at this point I knew I was getting a 2-turn. So we're just kind of wrapping things up, getting some EXP on our staffers. Mulder actually reached level 10 this chapter, which is pretty nice. And here I'm just showing that Saleh would be physicking Seth if he got hit literally at all, which he didn't, which was kind of funny, but yeah, usually he needs some sort of physic. And so we're just going to plop Seth in front of Leon so that Myrrh can get even more enemy phase EXP. I guess the nice thing about Tana carrying Seth over Vanessa in this clear is that she can talk to Cyrene, and Cyrene can now bait an extra enemy away, but it would still be more reliable to just use Vanessa anyway, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And yeah, so there is, in terms of enemies that Myrrh would be able to kill on this second turn, there is one of the fighters that she ended up critting on turn 1, she would kill on this phase. So she would actually get a little bit more EXP because she'd get some chip from not killing him on turn 1. And there's also a Wyvern that Myrrh is able to kill. And the other 2 Wyverns have full HP, so Myrrh's not going to be able to kill them, but potentially she does have a chance to like crit them, which would give her even more EXP, but didn't happen in this clear, which is fine. And yeah, Myrrh's stats are getting kind of crazy. We are looking for some speed levels on Myrrh, but she's actually doing pretty well at this point, so it looks like she's going to hit the speed benchmark we needed her hit, which is for chapter 19 actually. And yeah, here's the enemies in the boss area. Seth, after getting healed, doesn't really have any problem surviving. Tana and Cyrene are going to bait away some enemies. And Seth will finish off Leon here. So that is chapter 17 completed in 2 turns. And we will be moving on to chapter 18. But we will get some new toys to play with beforehand. The Nidhogg and the Vidofnir will be the sacred twins we get. You can guess which one's going to be more useful. We also get the rescue staff, which is really nice when we just need a couple extra squares of movement. We can use that instead of warp, and Ardor can actually use that, so that's pretty nice. So on to chapter 18. This is our last route map in the game, so it's honestly the toughest map that we have left. This map is interesting because it's a route map where like 20 plus of the enemies don't actually attack you on enemy phase, so we actually have to spend our player phase actions killing these enemies. These are the eggs that are scattered throughout the map, and any of our units can kill them in one hit, so they're not hard to kill, but they do take up an action to do every time we want to kill one. Basically all of the units we deploy in this chapter are either staff users or mounts of some kind. Noel is technically a staff user, though he has E-staves, but his phantoms are still going to be really useful in this map because they can actually get really far on turn 1, up to like 12 squares, I think, and they can be the second part of a take drop chain, so that's going to be really nice. We also have deployed Myrrh. This is so she gets EXP basically, and she does a decent job in the bottom right corner of the map. She's going to be rescued on turn 1 by Mulder so that she can be warped to the bottom right and start killing things right away. There is a 2-range enemy over there, and there's some eggs that Myrrh has to kill, and since we want to clear this map in 5 turns, we just need her to get started on that right away. This map is also one that could technically be completed faster. A 4-turn would be really tough, but I was able to get really close with only 2 warp uses and a rescue. So as long as you get the chapter 16 Purge Tome, it should be doable to get a 4-turn on this map. I was like 1 egg short, plus like some spiders, so you can probably figure it out. It wouldn't be super reliable because there's some new enemy types on this map called Gorgons, which use a weapon called Stone, which is a 1 to 3 range magic attack that if you get hit by it, gives you the stone status or petrified, which means you can't move basically, and we would have to use a restore usage on that, which would basically kill our 4-turn chances. So yeah, yet to be seen if you could try for a 4-turn, and then if you end up getting hit by stone, transition to a 5. But that would be something for someone to look into if they wanted to keep messing around with Erica route efficiency. One other thing that kind of makes this map annoying is we have zone-based reinforcements, so you'll see those spiders spawn, and that was because Myrrh went into their trigger zone. And there are some trigger zones all throughout the map that spawn some spiders. And, you know, in a typical playthrough, they're not going to be super threatening because they have really poor hit rates, but they do still hit really hard. So in an efficiency playthrough where we want to minimize chance of death as much as possible, they are actually going to be kind of scary. In the top left corner of the map, we have to send a lot of our flyers. That's really just because they're 8-move units with acceptable stats, and they're also not Seth or Vanessa, who need to go to the top right. So that's why Tana, Cormag, and Cyrene are going over there. They have a lot of eggs to kill, and they need to get there pretty fast. On this turn, turn 2, we're going to have Ardor use Purge on one of the Gorgons I was talking about. This is because they do a lot of damage, and even though Seth can 1-round KO them, we don't want him to take a counter from their really strong magic attack, so we'll have Ardor weaken them. In this case, he actually just one-shots them, which is pretty funny, but yeah, we just need them to be weakened so that Seth can finish him off. Mulder is going to use the Myrrh staff on the warp here. This is our second use of Myrrh. And then Sally is going to warp Seth over to the top right. As I talked about in chapter 17, Mulder was ready to promote, so we promoted him prior to this map. The reason Mulder really needs to promote it at all is first because, I mean, 6th move, we'll take it. But the main reason is that he can hit S-rank staves by a later point in the playthrough. And so that's going to be pretty nice for improving reliability drastically. So we need to promote him so he can get some staff uses in. He needs, I believe, 30 more weapon EXP. Yeah, 30 weapon EXP to hit the S-rank staff after promoting. So that's not going to be too hard because we had him use Rescue, which is 7 staff EXP. We had him use Myrrh, which is 8. So he's already halfway there by like turn 2 of chapter 18. So as long as he promoted before this chapter, it was never going to be too tight. We get to see Null's Phantom putting in some work because of its flying. It's able to kill this egg on a ledge when our flyers are very busy going to other corners of the map. And the boss Gorgon here attacks Seth with stone. Now we're counting on that Gorgon like hitting him, so if he gets hit, it's fine. He faces around like mid-30s hit. But yeah, in a 4-turn, if you get hit by that stone, then your chances at a 4-turn are basically nixed. So we have Ardor in range of Seth so that he can be restored if he gets hit. This Gargoyle attacking Myrrh is actually just going to be really annoying because she doesn't have 2 range. If you didn't care about training Myrrh, you'd probably send someone like Dusel over to the bottom right, just because he has good stats, can kill spiders, doesn't face any death chance, and has some 2 range to deal with that javelin guy. But Myrrh is perfectly fine at killing everything here in a 5-turn. And now we can't really afford to use any warps because we need the rest of them for later in the game. So here is where, if you had budgeted some more warp uses for this chapter, you would start warping maybe like Noel or Erica or Tethys over to start helping like Seth, Vanessa, and Ardor deal with the top right eggs, which are really hard to get to. There's also yet another gimmick on this map to talk about. You saw Null's Phantom just run to the bottom right where Myrrh is, which might not make a lot of sense, but he's actually just placing himself on a fire tile. And those are the kind of bright red tiles on the map. These will activate whenever a unit steps on them. I think they happened earlier to a Gorgon in this map, but yeah, so when a unit steps on them, they'll take 10 damage, and obviously since the Phantom only has 1 HP, he'll die. So that's just so next turn Null can summon another Phantom. Tethys dances Cyrene here. I was actually kind of supposed to have her rescue Sale and have Erica drop him so that he could get a little bit closer and start using Physic on our flyers in the top left, but it's fine. Ardor again uses a Purge on a Gorgon. That's so that we can just kill it easily without having to worry about getting hit by any stones. So Vanessa will finish that boss off. Also gives her a lot of EXP, which is nice for a little bit later in the playthrough. She actually is starting to get strength now, which is pretty nice, even though it's kind of late. It doesn't really matter at this point. And Seth is going to start working on these eggs in the top right. This group of eggs was the ones I was having trouble killing in a 4-turn completion of this map. I had 1 egg left over there, even with using all of my purges on them. So, yeah, probably warping someone over to that area would solve that issue if you could figure out some other stuff on this map. One thing about these eggs, which is kind of nice, is they give a lot of EXP. They give 50 EXP regardless of who kills them. And that's really helpful because some of our units are promoted and don't really get a lot of EXP from other enemies. Though it kind of sucks for Myrrh though, because she gets less EXP from these eggs than basically any other enemy, but it's fine. 50 EXP is still pretty good. One thing I do want to get on my soapbox a little bit about before this map is over, I did mention that the flyers in the top left had acceptable stats. Well, that's actually not including Cyrene. So Cyrene was the unit we got last map. Even if we didn't recruit her last map, she would join at the end. Her stats are actually fucking terrible. They're worse than Base Sleth, who literally joined in the prologue. And I know, like, you can't really compare units to Seth, but Jesus Christ, she joined, like, 17 chapters later or something stupid like that. I don't know, man. She works well enough because, yeah, she can fly and, like, go over these cliffs or whatever, but man, 27 HP, 10 defense on a promoted unit is really fucking laughable, and she's the last unit we get in the fucking game, so. But Sally is going to Physic Tana, depending on how hurt she gets, just to make sure that she doesn't die to these gargoyles. These flyers, Cormag and Tana have like okay stats, but I think Tana still actually gets 2-hit KO'd by one of these gargoyles, which is pretty embarrassing. Cyrene definitely can't take 2 hits from them, so Sally is kind of going to have to trail behind them and just Physic whenever they get super hurt. Another kind of shitty thing about our top left group is their weapon ranks all kind of suck. I mean, Cyrene's weapon ranks are okay, but her strength is so bad that her using a Silver Lance is basically equivalent to like Tana or Cormag using a Killer Lance without the crit, which is pretty stupid. Yeah, Cormag and Tana have really shitty weapon ranks, can't even use silvers. Cormag with a Silver Lance could actually one-round KO gargoyles, which would be nice, but no, we can't have anything good. This egg group where Ardor and Erica are actually kind of annoying because we can't dedicate any good units to them, so Ardor is like our best combat unit over here, which is going to be a problem because after Ardor kills this egg, he's going to be in a trigger zone for some more spiders. And as I talked about earlier, they hit really fucking hard, so while Ardor could one-round KO them, he can't take 2 hits. Null's Phantom is going to be useful here because it can just kill an egg and die. Erica is going to be able to kill an egg and run away, which is nice. But yeah, so once the spiders spawn, all of our units around there are going to have to get out of the way because they will die to 2 hits. So that is kind of why Myrrh is also in the bottom right, because she can fly up on turn 5 and get in range of those spiders and actually kill them, which is really nice. But again, you could do this with like Silver Axe Dussel or something like that. Myrrh isn't super special in this regard. And yeah, Vanessa and Seth are just killing eggs whenever they can. Seth had a one-use javelin so that once he killed an egg with it, he could have the Silver Lance equipped on enemy phase and kill the gargoyle that attacks him. So that's pretty nice. Technically, getting low-use weapons is kind of unreliable, but I feel like with javelins, it's kind of a different story because you use so many javelins in FE8 that you're bound to get one pretty close to one use at some point, and it's really not too big of a deal to get like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 use javelin. Like, I have not planned out weapon breakage at all in this run, basically, and I still ended up with like 3 1-use javelins, 2 2-use javelins, you know, something stupid like that. So I don't know, maybe it's just anecdotal evidence, but I just feel like it's using low-use weapons in an efficiency playthrough is kind of fair game if you just end up with like 3 of them by total accident. So yeah, this is turn 5, and like I said, those spiders spawned, so Myrrh is going to have to go run up and deal with them. In a 4-turn clear of this map that I said was technically possible, Myrrh would not be able to do this, so you would have to find someone to kill those spiders without facing death chance, and our options are kind of limited. Sally could technically do it, but he kind of needs to help our top left group because, like I said, acceptable stats, but that's really stretching the limit of acceptable. Arter can't take 2 hits. Erica definitely can't take 2 hits. Maybe training Erica, you could do it, but her bulk is pretty bad, so probably not. The only thing I could really think of was like sending Seth back down, which would really just put so much pressure on our egg killing in the top right that I don't know how reasonable it is. But yeah, it kind of just depends on how many warp uses you can use to get units over there. Seth and Vanessa are going to deal with these eggs in the middle, just because they're kind of around there and Arter can't really purge them, so they're kind of our only options. Nice thing about Cormag in the top left, he's not totally useless and was able to tank 2 hits from those spiders that spawned and start dealing with them on turn 4 so that we could finish them off on this turn. If I had done that rescue drop Sally that I'd kind of fucked up on earlier, he would actually be able to like either take out an egg or take out a spider here, which would have been nice, but it ended up not mattering. Cyrene will kill that gargoyle, and now we're just left doing cleanup. Tethys is just dancing Arter, because why not? Get him a little bit more EXP, I guess. Mulder. Get him a little bit of extra staff rank, but yeah, not really anything super crucial. And yeah, if you haven't been paying attention to Myrrh's EXP, or if you have been paying attention to Myrrh's EXP, you might have noticed that she got I think 6 levels in this map, which is kind of ridiculous. In a 4-turn, she'd get less because she wouldn't be able to kill these spiders, but she'd still get quite a bit. So she is actually going to end up at I think level 14 or 15 at the end of this chapter, which is really nice because so she ends up at level 14 at the end here. It's going to let her do a boss kill in the next chapter, which is super nice and make that pretty much totally reliable. But yeah, that is chapter 18 completed in 5 turns, and I will see you all next time for the end of the run. Alright, peace.